Trust is the foundation of every relationship you have at home, at work, with friends, even with strangers. Without trust, communication breaks down. Without trust, connection fades. Without trust, it doesn't matter how smart, talented, or persuasive you are. People won't follow you, won't confide in you, and won't believe you. And here's the thing, trust isn't built overnight. It's built in small habits, daily ways you communicate that either strengthen or weaken the bond between you and someone else. So today, I want to share with you 6 communication habits that build trust. They're simple, they're practical, and if you practice them consistently, they will transform the way people see you, hear you, and trust you. We live in a world where everyone is trying to be heard, but very few are actually listening. And here's the truth, if you want to build trust, you have to flip that script. You have to listen more than you speak. Now, let me be clear, listening isn't just keeping quiet while the other person talks. That's not listening, that's waiting for your turn. Real listening is when you put aside your own agenda for a moment and give the other person your full attention. It's not just about the words they're saying, it's about what they're feeling, what they're not saying, and what matters most to them. Think about it. How many people in your life actually make you feel like you're being truly heard? Probably not many, and that's exactly why this habit is so powerful. When you genuinely listen, you separate yourself from the crowd. You make people feel valued, respected, and safe. That's trust in action. Let's talk about what listening looks like. It looks like eye contact, because if you can't look at someone while they're speaking, they feel dismissed. It looks like nodding, not the fake nodding where your brain is somewhere else, but the kind where you're actually tuned in. It looks like asking clarifying questions. So what I hear you saying is this, right? That simple line shows that you care enough to get their message right. And here's a big one. It looks like silence. Most of us are so uncomfortable with silence that we rush to fill it. But sometimes the best thing you can do is let the pause sit. Because in that pause, people often reveal what they really want to say. Trust grows in those moments. Now, let's flip it. What happens when you don't listen? When you cut people off, when you're distracted on your phone, when you're just waiting for your turn to talk? You send the message that their voice doesn't matter, and if their voice doesn't matter, why should they trust you? That's how trust dies, one interruption, one ignored sentence at a time. Listening isn't about agreeing with everything someone says. That's a misconception. You can disagree and still listen well, because listening isn't about giving in, it's about giving respect. People don't need you to always agree with them, they need to know you get them. You can disagree and still validate someone's experience by saying, I hear you. I see why that matters to you. And here's the payoff. When you listen, you earn the right to be heard. If you're always talking, people eventually tune you out. But when you listen first, people lean in when it's your turn to speak. Why? Because you've shown them that this isn't just about you, it's about connection. I'll give you a simple example. Imagine a workplace conflict. 2 coworkers disagree. One jumps straight into defending their point, while the other pauses and says, okay, help me understand your perspective first. Who do you think builds more trust in that moment? The one who listens. And 9 times out of 10, the conflict diffuses because being heard softens people more than being right. So here's the challenge the next time you're in a conversation, catch yourself. Are you really listening, or are you rehearsing what you're going to say next? Are you curious about the other person, or are you just waiting for your turn? Trust is built in these micro moments. And listening, deep intentional listening, is the fastest way to earn it. Because when someone feels hurt, they start to trust. And when they trust, they open up. And when they open up, that's where real relationships, personal or professional, begin to grow. So the habit is simple: listen more than you speak, because words may impress people, but listening wins their trust. If you want to build trust, there's one rule that can't be broken: say what you mean and mean what you say. Trust doesn't collapse overnight. It crumbles little by little. Every time your words don't line up with your actions, every time you say one thing but do another, you send a message that people can't depend on you. And when people can't depend on you, trust evaporates. Now let me break this down. Saying what you mean is about clarity. It's about not dancing around the truth, not sugarcoating so much that your message gets lost, and not over-promising just to make someone feel good in the moment. We've all been in situations where someone told us what we wanted to hear, only for reality to prove otherwise. And what happens then? Disappointment, frustration, distrust. Here's an example. Imagine your friend asks if you can help them move on Saturday. You don't really want to, but instead of being honest, you say, yeah, maybe, let's see. Saturday comes, and you're nowhere to be found. That maybe turned into an unspoken no, but instead of saying it clearly, you left your friend hanging, and now they trust you less. Not because you said no, but because you weren't clear from the beginning. People respect honesty more than empty promises. If you can't do something, say so. If you disagree, say it kindly but directly. It might sting for a moment, but people will trust you because they know your words carry weight. Now, the second half: mean what you say. This is about integrity. It's about keeping your word, following through, and letting your actions back up your promises. If you say you'll be there at 6:00, show up at 6:00, not 6:30 with a casual excuse. If you say you'll get something done, get it done. If life happens, and sometimes it does, then own it. Be upfront and let people know. Because here's the truth: people don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be consistent. And consistency is what builds trust. Think about the people in your life that you trust the most. chances are they're not the ones who always say yes. They're the ones who follow through on what they commit to. When they speak, you believe them not because they've never let you down, but because when they do, they take responsibility. On the flip side, nothing erodes trust faster than broken promises. Parents who say, "I'll play with you later," and never do. Leaders who promise transparency but keep secrets. Friends who always say, "Let's hang out soon," but never follow through. After a while, their words stop meaning anything. And when words mean nothing, trust is gone. Here's the truth about trust: it cannot survive without honesty. You can be charming, talented, and persuasive, but if people find out you're not honest with them, trust disappears. And once trust disappears, relationships, whether personal or professional, start to crumble. But here's the challenge: honesty isn't always easy. In fact, it's usually the hardest in the moments that matter most. When telling the truth could cause discomfort, when it could upset someone, when it might cost you something. And that's exactly why it builds trust, because honesty proves courage. Let me explain. When you're dishonest, whether that's through outright lies, half-truths, or sugarcoating too much, you may feel like you're protecting the other person, or maybe protecting yourself. But dishonesty is a short-term solution that creates long-term damage. The truth eventually comes out, and when it does, the fallout is always worse than if you had been honest from the start. Think about a time when someone wasn't upfront with you. Maybe they told you everything's fine when it wasn't. Or maybe they said, "I'll take care of it," but they never did. How did that feel? Probably like a betrayal. And here's the thing: betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the people we thought we could trust. That's why dishonesty cuts so deep. Now, does being honest mean you need to be harsh? No. Honesty and kindness can go together. The way you deliver the truth matters. You can say, "This project isn't good enough." Or you can say, "I know you worked hard on this, but there are areas we need to improve." One tears down, the other builds up while still telling the truth. Honesty doesn't mean being rude. It means being real. And people crave real. When you're honest, even when it's uncomfortable, you tell people, "I respect you enough to tell you the truth." That creates safety. That creates trust. Because if they know you'll be honest about the hard stuff, they can believe you when you talk about the good stuff. Let's take a workplace example. Imagine a leader who hides company struggles from their team, always saying everything's great. Then, suddenly, layoffs happen out of nowhere. That team feels blindsided, betrayed, and angry. Contrast that with a leader who says, "We're facing challenges right now, and I don't have all the answers yet, but I want you to know what's happening." That honesty may be uncomfortable, but it builds respect, and respect is the soil where trust grows. Here's another example: relationships. If something bothers you but you never bring it up because you don't want to start a fight, resentment builds. Eventually, that resentment explodes. But if you're honest along the way, "Hey, this hurt me," or "This bothered me," it may cause a difficult conversation, but it also creates an opportunity for understanding and healing. That's how relationships deepen. Trust thrives in clarity. It weakens in confusion. Think about it. When someone explains something to you in circles, when their words are vague, or when you leave a conversation with more questions than answers, do you feel confident in them? Probably not. You walk away unsure, doubting, maybe even suspicious. And that's the problem: where there's confusion, trust can't grow. Clarity, on the other hand, creates confidence. It tells people, "I know what I'm saying, and I respect you enough to make sure you understand it." And that simple shift, choosing clarity, goes a long way toward building trust in any relationship, whether it's at work, at home, or with friends. Now, what does clarity look like in communication? First, it looks like using simple, direct language. You don't need fancy words to impress people. In fact, trying to sound too impressive usually backfires. People don't trust what they can't understand. But when you use plain, clear language, people lean in. They feel safe because they know what you mean. Second, clarity means being specific. Don't say, "I'll get that to you soon." Say, "I'll email it to you by Friday at noon." Don't say, "We'll talk later." Say, "Let's schedule 10 minutes tomorrow after lunch." Specifics remove doubt. And when doubt is gone, trust grows. Here's an example. Imagine your boss says, "We need to improve results around here." That's vague. Improve how? By when? What results? You're left confused. Compare that with the end of this month, we need to increase sales calls by 15%. Here's how we're going to do it. Now you know exactly what's expected. That clarity doesn't just inform you. It builds trust in your leader. Because they aren't hiding behind vague statements. They're giving you direction. And let's be honest, we often hide in vagueness. We avoid being clear because we don't want to commit, or because we're scared of conflict, or because it feels easier to keep things open-ended. But vagueness is not harmless. It leaves people guessing. It creates misunderstandings. It causes disappointment. And all of that chips away at trust. Clarity also means making your intentions known. If you want something, say it. If you don't know something, admit it. If you need time, ask for it. People respect transparency far more than mixed signals. Even saying, "I don't know right now, but I'll find out and get back to you," is clarity. It's better than pretending or dodging, which always leaves people wondering what's really going on. And here's something important: clarity doesn't only come from words. It also comes from consistency. If your words say one thing but your actions say another, that's confusion. And confusion breaks trust faster than almost anything. But when your words and actions line up, you send a clear signal. You can believe me. Think about your relationships. How many arguments have started not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't clear? A misinterpreted tone, an undefined expectation, a vague promise. A lot of hurt feelings could be avoided if we simply aimed for clarity from the start. If there's one thing that destroys trust faster than almost anything else, it's pretending you're never wrong. People can forgive a mistake, but they can't forgive denial, excuses, or blame shifting. The truth is, mistakes don't ruin relationships. How you handle them does. We all make mistakes. We miss deadlines. We forget commitments. We say things we shouldn't. We drop the ball. That's human. People don't expect perfection. But what they do expect, and what builds trust, is honesty and ownership when things go wrong. Think about it. Which person do you trust more? The one who says, "I messed that up and I'm sorry," or the one who says, "It wasn't my fault. I was too busy. You should have reminded me." It's no contest. The one who owns their mistake earns more trust than the one who avoids responsibility. Why? Because ownership shows humility, and humility is believable. Perfection isn't. When you try to cover up or spin your mistakes, people see right through it. They might not call you out, but inside they know, and once someone feels you can't admit the truth, they stop trusting your words altogether. But when you face your mistakes head on, you send the message, "I care more about this relationship than protecting my ego." That's powerful. Here's a workplace example. Imagine a leader who makes a bad decision that costs the company money. If that leader blames the team or pretends nothing happened, trust in their leadership plummets. But if they stand up and say, "That decision was mine and it was the wrong one. Here's what I learned, and here's how we'll fix it," suddenly the team respects them more, because trust isn't about being flawless, it's about being accountable. Now let's bring it home. In personal relationships, mistakes happen every day. You forget a birthday, you snap at someone you love, you break a promise. When you own it quickly, "I was wrong, I hurt you, and I'm sorry," you open the door for healing. But when you deflect, "What you did this," or "I didn't mean it, so it shouldn't hurt you," you close that door and damage trust. And here's the thing, ownership isn't weakness, it's strength. It takes courage to say, "That was on me." It shows maturity, it shows integrity, and it shows the other person that you value honesty over image. So how do you practice owning your mistakes in a way that actually builds trust? A few key steps: acknowledge quickly. The longer you wait, the more damage the mistake causes. Don't hide, own it fast, be specific. Don't just say, "Sorry for everything." Say, "I'm sorry I missed the deadline. That was my responsibility." Specificity proves sincerity. Avoid excuses. Context can help, but excuses only dilute your apology. Own it without deflecting. Learn and adjust. Mistakes happen, but repeating the same mistake shows you didn't take responsibility seriously. Growth is what rebuilds trust. Move forward. Don't wallow in guilt. Own it, fix it, and then move forward stronger. Here's the payoff: people actually trust you more after you own a mistake than if you tried to cover it up. Why? Because now they know you'll tell the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And if they can trust you in failure, they'll trust you in success. If you want to know whether someone can be trusted, watch what they do with information that isn't theirs to share. Because trust isn't just built on what you say to a person. It's built on what you say about them when they're not around. And nothing destroys trust faster than realizing that what you shared in confidence has become gossip for someone else. Here's the truth: when someone opens up to you, it's not just conversation, it's a test. They're silently asking, "Can I trust you with this part of me?" And how you handle that moment either builds trust or breaks it. Think about it. Maybe a friend shared something personal with you, a struggle, a dream, a mistake. If you kept it safe, that friend likely came back to you again. They felt secure. But if you told someone else, even casually, even innocently, that trust cracked. And once trust cracks, it rarely returns to the same strength. Confidentiality is sacred. It's not about keeping secrets to be sneaky. It's about protecting the vulnerability someone chose to share with you. When you guard someone's words, you guard their dignity. You show them that their story matters more than your need for attention. Now let's talk about the flip side. When you break confidentiality, here's what happens. The person feels betrayed. They trusted you and you proved unsafe. They stop sharing. Not just with you, but maybe with others too. You didn't just hurt their trust in you. You may have damaged their ability to trust at all. Your reputation suffers. People watch how you handle other people's words. If you gossip about one friend, everyone assumes you'll gossip about them too. And here's the hard truth: you don't have to tell everyone for the damage to happen. Even telling one person, "But don't tell anyone I told you," is enough to break trust. Because if you could betray confidentiality once, what's stopping you from doing it again? So what does it look like to keep confidentiality sacred? Listen without leaking. When someone shares something sensitive, resist the urge to process it with someone else. Not everything needs a second pair of ears. Don't use stories for entertainment. Someone's pain isn't your icebreaker at dinner. Respect what they shared. Clarify boundaries. If you're unsure whether something is confidential, ask, "Would you like me to keep this just between us?" Let them decide. Protect, don't exploit. Use what they shared to support them, not to position yourself as no. Be the safe place. When people think of you, they should think, "If I tell them something, I know it won't go anywhere else." Here's a practical example. Imagine a coworker shares they're applying for another job. If you tell even one other person, word could spread and suddenly their career is at risk. But if you protect that confidence, even if nothing comes of it, they'll never forget that you had their back. Or think about a family situation. A sibling confides in you about a struggle. If you go and tell your parents without their permission, you've just signaled that their voice doesn't matter. But if you protect their confidence, even when it's uncomfortable, you prove yourself trustworthy. Here's the payoff. People open up more deeply when they know their words are safe with you. They'll share their hopes, their fears, their failures. And that depth of real trust lives. The bottom line is this: keeping confidentiality sacred isn't about silence for the sake of silence. It's about respect. It's about proving that when someone hands you a piece of their story, you'll treat it with care. And when people know their words are safe with you, their trust in you multiplies. Because trust doesn't just come from what you say, it comes from what you refuse to say.